Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah here. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel and Mirza Hashem today. We will be learning Daf Mem Ches Amid Beis. We are continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos, and we pick up today on Mem Ches Amid Aleph, 3 lines off the bottom in the Shulchan Aruch. Siman Reish Ayin Aleph Sif Yud Beis. Our learning should be Oschos for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanesunim Batzar Bashivya Ha'imdim Bein Bayam Ubein Bayabasha Hamakim Yerachem Aleihem V'Yaitziei Mitzar L'Rvacha Me'afel L'Oiro Mishibud L'Geula Hashta Bagolo V'Zman Kariv V'Naimar Amen. Our learning should be Oschos Refuah Shalema for Tzvi Ben Leah Miriam, and our learning should be Oschos for all those who are in harm's way B'Chol Makim Shehem. Okay, so let's pick up here in Sif Yud Beis. Says the Mechaber, Achar shekidesh al hakois. Till now, we've been discussing Kiddush. Now, after you make Kiddush al hakois, after you make Kiddush Friday night al hayayin, noitel yadav, now you go and you wash netilas yadayim, umevarech al netilas yadayim, you make the bracha of netilas yadayim. So, the Mechaber is laying out here the minig, which I believe is the most prevalent minig. It's not the minig of everyone. I know for sure those of Germanic descent, they do not follow this minig, but the more common minig is what the Mechaber lays out here, that you make Kiddush al hayayin, and after Kiddush you go and you wash, and then you're going to make hamoitzi. Says the Mechaber in Ois Kat Nun Ches, Achar shech Kiddush, v'loi koidem. But the Mishnah Berurah says that according to this sheet here in the Mechaber, you very specifically do not wash before Kiddush. You specifically have to wash after Kiddush. Why, explains the Mishnah Berurah, because if you remember, when we were learning Hilchas B'tzias Hapas, we learned that there's a rule, which is tekef linetila bracha. Right after you wash the netilas yadayim, that's when you're supposed to wash hamoitzi. You're really not supposed to be mafsik between the washing of the netilas yadayim and the bracha of hamoitzi. Everybody knows that we don't speak after we wash. Once we wash, we don't speak until after we make the hamoitzi and eat the challah. Indeed, when we learned Hilchas B'tzias Hapas, I spoke out that there's a toyus that many people make. A lot of people, they go ahead and they wash, and then if they have a lot of people washing, while everybody else is washing, they mix up a salad, they mix up a salad dressing. That is not proper. You're not supposed to do that. You wash, go sit down by the table. So tekef linetila bracha. So why would you wash and then be mafsik with Kiddush? So that's why the Mishnah Berurah says, according to this opinion here in the Mechaber, v'loi koidem, do not wash before Kiddush. Kedei shelo yafsik ba'ha Kiddush bein netilas yadayim lahamoitzi, so that you should not be mafsik with Kiddush between netilas yadayim and hamoitzi. Aval, however, points out the Chavetz Chaim, this really only applies to the Mekadesh, to the one that's making Kiddush. Ava b'nei beisai she'ena mekadshin ba'atzman, but the other people that are around the table who are not actually making Kiddush, Elo yoitzin b'shmiyasan mi balabayis, they're being yoitzin with the Kiddush of the balabayis, yuchlu lital yedeim koidem. They really are able to wash before Kiddush, because they're not making a hefsek. So for them, there really would be no problem. So the first thing that Mechaber told me over here is that the way to do this is make Kiddush, after Kiddush, go wash. Now, says the Mechaber, 2 lines off the bottom end of the line, V'im not al yadav koidem Kiddush. Let's say somebody went ahead and he washed before Kiddush. Goli daite, by washing before Kiddush, he has now revealed, he has now shown the rifta chavivalei. He has now shown that the rifta, which is pas, the bread, is what's chaviv to him. By going and rushing and washing before Kiddush, what this person has shown, if you take a look at the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Kat Samach, we skipped for a moment Ois Kat Nun Tes, but take a look at Ois Kat Samach, says the Chavetz Chaim Chavivalei. By washing, he's showing that the bread is what's chaviv to him. It's more beloved to him. He's in a rush to go eat bread. Hainu delakach noitel yadav. Why did he go wash? Shehu ra'ev, because he's hungry. Umemaher lechel pas, and therefore he's in a rush to go eat the pas, and that's why he washed. So now let's go back into the Mechaber. So the Mechaber says, really, you should make Kiddush al yayin and then wash. But if somebody went ahead and washed first, then he is showing that the pas is what's chaviv to him. Now, we learned in Hilchas Brachas that chavivus is something that gives kedima when it comes to brachas. If you have different foods in front of you that you're about to make a bracha on, one of the items that take precedence over other items is a davar chaviv, because that's the kavod of a bracha. The kavod of a bracha is that you should make the bracha over the thing that's more chaviv to you. So too over here. If the pas is more chaviv to you, then maybe you should go and wash and make the hamoitzi first. Now, how do you do that? You didn't make kiddush. Oh, you're going to be a mekadosh ala pas. So says the Mechaber, v'im not al yad of kaidem kiddush. If you washed before kiddush, goli daitoi derifta chavivale. By doing so, you have now shown that the pas is chaviv to you. You're in a rush to get to the pas, and therefore v'lo yikadosh ala yayin ela al hapas. And therefore, now you should go ahead and make kiddush al hapas. Now let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Nuntes. The Mechaber said, if you wash before Kiddush, then you're showing that the pas is chaviv. Oh, you're showing that the pas is chaviv? Then the pas takes precedence over the yayin. But you didn't make Kiddush yet. Okay, be mekadosh ala pas. Wonders the Chavetz Chaim, let's say you didn't wash. Let's say you came home, you're about to go to the Suda, you didn't wash first, but it happens to be that to you pas is more chaviv. So should you make kiddush ala pas because pas is more chaviv? In other words, why does the Mechaber give it as a case? Oh, if you washed first, then you're being megaladas that the pas is chaviv to you. Then you should make kiddush ala pas. What if you weren't megaladas that the pas is chaviv to you? You didn't wash first, but it happens to be that pas is chaviv to you. Is that a reason to be mekadosh ala pas? Says the Chavetz Chaim, no. Ois Katan Nuntes. V'dafka hacha. It's only in this case where you went ahead and washed first, and by washing first you were megaladas that the pas is chaviv to you. That's when you should go ahead and make kiddush ala pas instead of making kiddush ala yayin. Why? Because now you have two reasons to go to the pas first. Why? Dika gamkein chshash hefsik. Because now there are two reasons why you should turn to the pas. One reason is what we just said in Mishnah Berurah's Katan Nun Ches. If you washed first, now there's a very powerful reason to be mekadosh ala pas. Because if you washed and now you're going to go be mekadosh ala yayin, your kiddush ala yayin is going to be a hefsik between the netilas yadayim and the hamoitzi. So that's one reason why you should be mekadosh ala pas, and now you have a second reason to be mekadosh ala pas, which is that the pas is chaviv to you. So in the case where you jumped the gun and you went ahead and you washed before you made kiddush ala yayin, then go make kiddush ala pas because you have a dual reason. But in a normal case where it's just that the pas is chaviv to you, that's not enough of a reason to go ahead and make kiddush ala pas. Explains the Mishnah Berurah, ba'alma. In a normal case where you didn't go ahead and wash first, you could go ahead and do kiddush ala yayin first after rifta chaviva leyosim yayin, even though the pas might be more chaviv to you. Over there in Siman Reisha Beis, we go into detail about the halacha of being mekadosh ala pas. The truth is that being mekadosh ala pas itself, the whole concept of being mekadosh ala pas, is the subject of a major machlokes rishonim. Rabbeinu Tam holds that you're not allowed to be mekadosh ala pas. You're not mekadosh ala pas, according to Rabbeinu Tam. There's no such thing. The Rosh and others hold that you could be mekadosh ala pas, but only kishe'ein yayin be'ir. If there's no yayin available to you at all, then you can be mekadosh ala pas. But if there's yayin available to you, then you can't be mekadosh ala pas. Now, it happens to be that the Rosh and the others seem to hold, the Mishnah Berurah is going to say this later on, that if pas is chaviv to you, then you are allowed to be mekadosh ala pas, even when you have yayin available to you. Okay, and over there the Mishnah Berurah says that's the kula that a lot of people are soimach on, that they go ahead and I think maybe he says it here actually. No. He's going to say later that people are soimach on this idea, so they go ahead and they make kiddush ala pas. Okay. Ice cut samach, which we did already, really. Chavivale, by washing, he showed that the pas is more chaviv to him. Hainu l'lakach noitel yadav. That's why he jumped the gun and he washed. Shur roiv, he's hungry. Umemar lechal pas, and he's in a rush to go eat pas. Okay, so that was the Der Rishona. That was the first opinion here in Sif Yud Beis. Now says the Ramah, last word on the line, second line up. Haga. Says the Ramah, v'yeshayimrim. There are those that say, there are those that say that the proper thing to do, lechatchila, is to go wash first, then be mekadesh al hayayin, then make the hamaitzi and eat the pas. Why would that be? So let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. It says the Mishnah Berurah is cut in Samachalaf. First of all, explains the Chavetz Chaim, the Svir Lahu, these shitas hold. The Eina Kiddush Mikri Hefsik. What? You're worried about Kiddush al Hayayin being a Hefsik between the Tilas Yadayim and the Hamaitzi? Says the Chavetz Chaim, that's not a Hefsik. Kevichu Tzorich Suda. We know that anything that's a Tzorich Suda is not considered a hefsek between the Tilas Yadayim and Hamaitzi. So, for example, if you wash and now you go to sit down to make Hamaitzi and there's no salt, so you have to say no salt. You could say that. That's not considered a hefsek because it's a tzorich suda. You need it for the Hamaitzi. So that's okay. So too over here, reason these Rishonim, how could you tell me that Kiddush al Hayayin is a hefsek between the Tilas Yadayim and Hamaitzi? Kiddush al Hayayin is a tzorich suda of Suda Shabbos. So it's not, doesn't constitute a hefsek. Ulakach, and therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, Yekadish al Hayayin, therefore what you should do is, you should wash, then you should make Kiddush al Hayayin, v'yishta kois, and drink the kois, v'achakach yivarach Hamaitzi, and then make a Hamaitzi, v'yivtza pas, and cut the challah, and eat the challah. V'kevan de'enai hefsek. And since we've now established that the Kiddush al Hayayin does not constitute a hefsek between the Tilas Yadayim and Hamaitzi, Svir Leil Ramah, the Ramah holds the Toiv Linaked L'Chatchila, that this is actually the better way to do things. To wash first, then make Kiddush, then make Hamaitzi. Why? Because sometimes you're not going to have wine, and then you're going to be Mekadesh al Pas. Then Bal Karchai Tzarech Lito Yadav Kainam Kiddush. In a case where you're going to be Mekadesh al Pas, you must wash before Kiddush, right? Because as part of Kiddush, you're going to make Hamaitzi, and right after Kiddush, you're going to eat the Pas. So you have to wash before you make Kiddush. So says the Ramah, Val Kain Toiv Linakain Tamid Ba'ofen Echad. Very interesting. So again, what we have over here is like this. We have the first opinion of the Mechaber, which is that the proper thing to do is to make Kiddush al Hayayin, then go wash and make Hamaitzi. Why? Because the Mechaber is afraid that if you're going to wash first, then make Kiddush, then make Hamaitzi, then Kiddush is going to constitute a hefsek between the Tilas Yadayim and Hamaitzi. Comes along the Ramah, according to the Mishnah Berurah's explanation, and the Ramah says, no. Kiddush is a hefsek between the Tilas Yadayim and Hamaitzi? Kiddush is not a hefsek. Kiddush is tzarchei suda. It's a need for the suda, therefore it doesn't constitute a hefsek. Once the Ramah holds that it doesn't constitute a hefsek, now the Ramah reasons it's actually more lechatchila to first wash, then make Kiddush. Why? Because sometimes you're going to have to do that. When are you going to have to do that? Whenever you're Mekadesh al Pas. Whenever you're Mekadesh al Pas, you're going to have to wash before Kiddush. We want the format of Kiddush to always be the same. Since we want it to always be the same, wash first, then go ahead and make Kiddush. That's the svara over here, according to the Ramah. Now, I'm guessing that back in the day of the Ramah, it might have been a lot more common to be Mekadesh al Pas because Yayin wasn't Motzui. They didn't have 6 kosher wine stores, around the corner. So they didn't necessarily have the plethora of wine that Baruch Hashem, the Rebbeinu Shalom, is bezaka us with now. So I guess it happened quite often that they didn't have wine. So they were Mekadesh al Pas. So therefore, the Ramah said, we don't want to make these differences in format of Kiddush. We want to make a uniform format, and therefore always wash first. Continues the Mishnah Berurah here on the very bottom line. We're discussing here the potential problem of having a hefsek between Netilas Yadayim and Hamoitzi that involves Kiddush. Now, the Ramah just told us that the Kiddush doesn't constitute a hefsek. If you would wash first and then make Kiddush, the Kiddush would not constitute a hefsek between Netilas Yadayim and Hamoitzi. Why? Because that's Tzarchei Suda. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, how about to be moizik es hakos? How about to dilute a kos of yayin? Does that constitute a hefsek? So the Mishnah Berurah says it depends if you're diluting the kos with hot water or cold water. There were two different ways of doing it. If you dilute the kos with hot water, apparently you have to be very careful how you do it. If you used too little water or too much water, you would ruin the wine. Therefore, says the Mishnah Berurah, the limud is hakos b'chamin, to dilute a kos of yayin with hot water, achar hanetila, after netilas yadayim, koidem hamoitzi, before you make hamoitzi, vaday ein lasis kein l'kulei alma. Everybody holds that that's the wrong thing to do. That would constitute a hefsek between netilas yadayim and hamoitzi. Why? Kevin detzarch ledaktik yafeh sheyimzoi kedarkoi, because when you do that, you have to be very precise with your measurements. That you should not use too little water or too much water. Have you hesach hadas? That would be hesach hadas. That would be removing your mind from the netilas yadayim. Between the netilas yadayim and hamoitzi, you're concentrating on the mezikas hakos. That would constitute a hefsek, and that would be improper. Okay, turning the page to Mem Chesam and Beis. Says the Ramah, the chein aminik poshet b'medinas elu. The Ramah says that in his time, the minik poshut was to take a wash before Kiddush. Ve'ein l'shanois, and you should not do differently. Rak b'leil Pesach, with the exception of Pesach night by the Seder. Now, Pesach night by the Seder, Kamachi is part of Siman Tov Ayin Gimel, like we learned already in Hilchos Pesach and Siman Tov Ayin Gimel. Why is Pesach night different? Very simple. Because imagine if what you did Pesach night was you washed before Kiddush. Then you made Kiddush, and you made Hamoitzi later. How huge would that hefsek be? You would wash before Kiddush, and now you have Kadesh, Orchatz, Karpas, Yachatz, Magid. You can have a massive, massive hefsek between the Netilas Yadayim and the Hamoitzi. So certainly Pesach night by the Seder, you cannot do this. Eis Katan Samach Beis, says the Mishnah Berurah, ve'ein l'shanois. So the Ramah said that the minig poshet is taka to wash before Kiddush, and he said ve'ein l'shanois. Having said that, says the Chavetz Chaim, the Kama Achronim Kosvu, however, many Achronim write, the Gra, the Maimer Mordechai, many others, the Kama Achronim Kosvu, many Achronim write, the Tvei Odef Lechatchila Lekadish Alagayin Koidim Netilas Yadayim Kedas HaMechaber. It's much better, it's much more preferential to do what the common minig is nowadays, and that is to make Kiddush before you wash. Because why not? To do the other way, you have a potential problem. You have the potential problem of creating a hefsek between Netilas Yadayim and Hamoitzi. Now the Ramah says it's not a hefsek. Okay, but the Day Rishon and the Mechaber says it is a hefsek. There's no downside of doing like the Mechaber. What's the downside? The only reason that we saw to do the Ramah's way, to wash first, is so that the format of Kiddush should be uniform all the time, even when you make Kiddush Alapas. How often do we make Kiddush Alapas? We don't make Kiddush Alapas very often. And the Chavetz Chaim, without saying what he personally holds, the Chavetz Chaim says, in many locales, that's the way they're noyig. Miu, however, and this is important to know, in Kfar Notel Yadav Kaidim Kiddush, in the case of B'diavad, where you accidentally went to wash before you made Kiddush, then you should definitely comport yourself like the Ramah. You washed, now sit down, make Kiddush al hayayin, and then make Hamoitzi. You can't do the eights of the Ramah on Pesach night by the Seder, as Katan Samach Gimel B'leil Pesach, Mishum Sha'oz Mafsikin Harbe Ba'amiras Haggadah Ad Hasuda, because Pesach night by the Seder you would be making a massive hefsek with Magid, so that you certainly can't do. Kasa B'derech HaChaim, the Sefer Derech Chaim writes, Im Mekadesh al Hapatz L'hoitzi Gam Hashoimim. If you are being Mekadesh al Hapatz, and you're being Moitzi the other people around the table with Kiddush as well, Gam Hashoimim Tzrich Im Mekadosh al pas loitzi gam hashoimim, tzrichim hashoimim sheyichavdu lotzes gam beberachas hamoitzi. When you make Kiddush ala pas and you're being moitzi other people, the other people should remember that they have to be yoitzi with your bracha of hamoitzi as well. Because if they don't have kavana to be yoitzi with the bracha of hamoitzi, rak yechavdu lotzis b'kiddush hayom, they only had kavana to be yoitzi with your kiddush, with the bracha of kiddush, but they didn't have kavana to be yoitzi with your bracha of hamoitzi. And now they want to make their own hamoitzi after kiddush, ois an iser. They would actually be doing an iser. The mahapchin seder kiddush ayin sham, because they're reversing the proper order of kiddush. First they're being yoitze in the bracha of kiddush. Now they're making a hamoitzi. But that's not the format of kiddush ala pas. The format of kiddush ala pas is hamoitzi and then the bracha of kiddush. By being yoitze with the bracha of kiddush and then making your own hamoitzi, you're reversing it. Well, if he's there, according to this, tzrichin gam ken lizar, the people who are listening to kiddush also have to take care. Lital yedehem b'shave im halabayis kisha mekadosh alapas. They have to wash before kiddush together with the balabayis. Di'lavachi, because if they don't wash, imagine if the balabayis washes, he sits down. Now he makes a hamoitzi and he makes the bracha of kiddush to be yoitzi everybody, and they're sitting there and they're having kavanah to be yoitzi the bracha of hamoitzi, but they can't eat the challah because they didn't wash yet. Okay, turning to Sif Yud Gimel. Says the Mechaber, Tzarech lishtois mikoy shel kiddush k'maloi lugmav. When you make kiddush, and now you're drinking from the koshel kiddush, how much do you have to drink? You have to drink a mole lugma, which literally a cheekful. The hainu, which means, says the Mechaber, kol sheyisal kenu l'tzad echad befiv, enough that if you take the liquid and you push it to one side of your mouth, v'yera'eh maloi lugmav, and you'll see a cheekful. I'll demonstrate since I have a tea here. It's the amount of liquid that you push to one side of your mouth so that your cheek is bulging. That's called a maloi lugmav. V'hu rubai shel revius. And by most people, by adam beinanim, by average-sized people, a maloi lugmav equals roiv of a revius. Okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut in Samach Dal. Tzarech lishtois v'em lav lo yotza. If you drink less than that from the kos shel kiddush, you're not yotze kiddush. The shear is kibaloi lugmav. Why is the shear maloi lugmav? What is this based on? Says the Mishnah Berurah, the be'inon shear chashuv. We need a shear that's a shear chashuv. It has to be a significant amount of wine. What makes a maloi lugma significant? Shetisyashev daitoi al yedezeh. It's an amount that you become miyushiv. It makes you relaxed when you drink it. In other words, you're thirsty. What's considered a significant drink, right? Somebody says, I'm thirsty, and he goes like this. Takes a tiny little sip. Is it going to be tisyashiv daitoi? Is that going to satisfy him in any way, shape, or form? No. But a maloi lugma is a nice gulp. A maloi lugma is a decent gulp, and that is miyashiv daitoi shaladam. Now, it happens to be that we see that halacha by Yom Kippur also. We see by Yom Kippur also this idea that a maloi lugma is the amount that's miyashiv daitoi shel adam. So that's the minimum share of kiddush. Ois kat and samach vav. The Mechaber defined for us what's a maloi lugma. A maloi lugma is a roy of revius, the majority of a revius halug. Says the Mishnah Berurah is kat and samach vav. The hainu ritzon and loymar. What the Mechaber wants to say is v'loi be'inon sheyehe maloi piv mamish. Mishneh Atstadim. I'm sorry. What he's going back on over here is, the Mechaber said, what's a maloi lugmav? A maloi lugmav is you push the liquid to one side and you have your cheek bulge. Says the Mishnah Berurah over here in Samach Vav, it does not mean that you have to fill up both cheeks. It's not mamish a mouthful. It is a cheekful. And that is, by the way, a machlokes rishonim. This is the sheet of Tosfos and the Rush. Ois kat and samach zayin. Then the Mechaber said that the maloi lugma is roiv of a revius. Says the Chavetz Chaim, the shir zed dai this amount, this maloi lugmav, is enough that you could be yotze kiddush. Afilu im haya hakais gadol, even if you're using a very large kais, shemachzik kama revi'iyos. Now, the stam kais that we always talk about, since the minimum share of a kais shel bracha is a revi'us, when they made a kais, they usually made the kais the size of a revi'us. Remember, they didn't have bottles and bottles of wine in their house, and wine was expensive. So you need a revi'us for a kais shel bracha. They made a kais, that's a revi'us. Now, you're telling me that a maloi lugmav is a roiv revi'us. Well, that means that if somebody drinks a maloi lugma, he's also drinking roiv of the kais. Now, let's say you have a gvir, and the gvir has a kais that's 3 revi'usim. He always has plenty of wine, so he's not worried. So he made a kais that's 3 revi'usim. If he drinks a maloi lugma, that's a little bit more than a sixth of his kais. So he's not drinking roiv kais. Is that a problem? Do you have to drink roiv kais? Says the Mishnah Berurah, no, you don't. You're yotze with a maloi lugma. Even if you have a huge kais, you're still yotze with a maloi lugma. Now, it's very important for the Chavetz Chaim to tell us this here, because that's not, there are those shittas that hold by the halach of dalit kaisos. There are those that hold that if you use a large kais, you have to drink either roiv kais or even the entire kais. There are some shittas that hold. So by dalit kaisos, we have a different halacha. By dalit kaisos, the amount that you have to drink, according to some Rishonim, is going to depend on the size of the kais. Over here by Kiddush, says the Mishnah Berurah, over here it's not dependent on the size of the kais. You're yotze with a maloi lugma no matter what size kais you have. Ois cotton samach ches. Mishnah Berurah's cotton samach ches is somewhat lengthy, but it's very technical, and most of us are not running out and measuring our kaisai so that we should. I mean, like I always say, everything is negeya, but I'm just pointing this out because it looks like a long, scary Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, cotton samaches, rubai shel revius. A maloi lugmav is the majority of a revius. First of all, it points out the Chavetz Chaim, hainu ba'adam beinani machzik shiurai kach. That's true by an average sized person. By an average sized person, his cheekful will be a roiv revius. Avo ba'adam gadol b'yoser. But let's say you have an exceptionally large individual. His cheekful might not be a maloi lugmav. I mean, his maloi lugmav might not be a roiv revius. His maloi lugmav might be a lot more than just a roiv revius. So does he have to drink more? Says the Mishnah Berurah, yes. Avo ba'adam gadol b'yoser misha'arinan kamaloi lugmav didei lifi gadloi. We go by his cheek. But even a very large individual who has a very big cheekful, let's say somehow his cheekful is 2 reviusin. Does he have to drink 2 reviusin? No. You never have to drink more than a revius. But you might have to drink a little bit more than just a roiv revius. You have to drink your cheekful up to a revius. V'dan, you should know, says the Chavetz Chaim, the sheer revius who kemat maloi shtei klipos mi beitza beinin shel tarnagolos. You should know that the shear of a revius is what would fill up 2 eggshells from an average-sized chicken egg. V'hu shear beitza umechza im haklipa. That is the equivalent of an egg and a half if the eggs are still inside the shell. Deloi kushi shabeitzim. Because what's a revius? We talk about a revius. The word revius means a quarter. A quarter of what? A quarter of a lug. Now, deloi kushi shabeitzim. A loig, the volume of a loig, is 6 beitzim. K'de'isa b'gemara. Umemela, if a loig is 6 beitzim, what's a quarter of 6? Umemela, revius haloig hu beitz of a chetzi. So a quarter of 6 is 1.5. So a revius haloig is an egg and a half. He brings this down from the Magen Avraham, the Pri Begadim, and the Chait Yaakov, Ilchos Pesach, and others. V'yesh machmirim ba'od binyan shiurim, says the Chavetz Chaim, you should know there are those who are very machmir when it comes to these shiurim, v'hichichu, and they prove that beitzim niskatnu bizmanenu, that nowadays our eggs are smaller than they used to be. So not only do we have inflation, which has made the price of eggs go crazy, our eggs have also gotten smaller. So we're getting smaller eggs for more money. Lamachtis b'mashahayu b'mei Gemara. You hear that? It says over here, there are those that hold that our eggs are half the size of what the eggs were in the time of the Gemara. V'alkein, therefore, shir revius hu b'keflayim. These machmirim hold that if you measure with nowadays eggs, you actually need double, because the Eggs used to be double the size. This would make a nafkamina when it comes to measuring out the shiurim of your kazayis of matzah. Do kechatzi beitza, because the kazayis is like a half an egg. Kimavur b'simen taf pei sif aleph. Taf pei vav sif aleph. V'ayin b'bir halacha, he sends us to the bir halacha. Masha kesavdu b'inyan zeh. The nachad lachash l'levreim litni kiddush halayla. When it comes to kiddush Friday night, we should be machmir. I believe Reb David Feinstein Zechatzak Levracha said that the share for Friday night kiddush would be approximately 4.2 ounces. Lechatchila says the Chavetz Chaim, you should make sure that your kais for Friday night kiddush holds the equivalent in volume of 2 eggs. And as far as how much you should drink, even though you're now using a larger kais, it's enough to drink the volume of your cheekful. You should know further, when we say that the minimum share is to drink a malay lugmav, you have to drink that malay lugmav without being mafsik too long. Can't sip. You can't sit there and sip. You should drink it without a hefsik. From the first sip that you take until the end of the drinking of the malay lugmav should not be longer than the time it takes to normally drink a revius kedarech b'nei adam. At least van rav, you shouldn't make a long drawn out hefsek kedei achilas pras, which would be kedei achilas pras, which is approximately 3 minutes. If you take longer to drink the malay lugmav than 3 minutes, af b'di'evid lo yotza, you're not even yotza kiddush b'di'evid. Says the Chavetz Chaim, you have to be exceptionally careful about this if you make kiddush Shabbos by day using schnapps, which we will discuss later on. Then it is very common that people goof and they take too long to drink the malay lugmav because, schnapps. They're sitting there and they're sipping. So they take too long to drink it. So really, you should drink a malay lugmav. You should drink it in 1 or 2 gulps. You don't have to drink it in an abnormal way. You drink it kederech b'nei adam, in the normal way of drinking. That's how you drink it. But don't stretch it out. It's a malay lugmav. It's not a whole lot. So in 1 or 2 gulps, you should drink down the malay lugmav. You shouldn't stretch it out, because if you're going to go more than 3 minutes, you're not going to be yotza even b'di'evid. Okay, thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. This list of limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. The Rabbanan Shalom should send Yeshua Sefurus Parnaset Sheduchim to those in need. We should be zeicher to see the BS Gal Tzedek b'meher of Yameinu. Amen. Be well.